All right, let's shed some light on Dayo Odeyingbo's production here. I mentioned this in the live feed yesterday. I did not hide my excitement about Dayo Odeyingbo. And maybe I knew more about Dayo Odeyingbo than most Bears fans did. One of my best friends is a Colts fan. I've gone to some Colts games with him. Very exciting prospect for the Bears. Is he the polished product where you're getting a Trey Hendrickson? No, but you're paying $16 million a year for him. And some people on Twitter, on different social media platforms, were upset about that contract because they're saying, well, Josh Sweat only went for $19 million, or different players went for different amounts. Dayo Odeyingbo's market value that he was projected to go for was between $16 and $20 million. So for fans to be upset about him being right in the middle of his market value, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But the news broke yesterday, and we got excited about it. You see the alerts. You see everything coming across. The first big one, after Drew Dahlman. So the first defensive line big move that we're making. And I think the one thing that people clamor to, they went and looked up the stats, and they said, well, 12 sacks last year. Let's make this a little smaller. So 12 sacks last year, but 4 sacks this very last year. So 2 years ago, 12 sacks. This last year, 4 sacks. Why the drop in production? Is this a bust that we're getting? 6'6", 286 pounds. He fits Dennis Allen's type of build. He's a big defensive end. And I've got to apologize. I misspoke on the live feed. I thought I remembered my friend called him the human tornado. They call him the human hurricane. So if you're looking that up and you wanted to see his nickname, they do call him the human hurricane in Indianapolis because he's got a relentless motor. His film is fun to watch. In fact, we'll pull some of that up here for you. He's just got a relentless motor. He's a big guy, and he fits the Dennis Allen type of scheme. And he's going to be the perfect guy to bring along a rookie too. I mean, if we there's a lot of big rookies in this class. Someone that we could potentially pick up in the second round, like a Nick Scourton or a Landon Jackson, big boys that fit the same style of Dayo Odeyingbo. And you watch him on tape, and he fits every. I didn't get a clip of his spin move. I was trying to do as few as I could, and hopefully not get copyright striked on this. But he's got a variety of moves. He's very self-aware. He can diagnose plays like this one right here. He sees the play happening. He doesn't bite on it, sees what's going on, and he still goes back and gets it right off of the screen, right off of the play there. He's got club move. He's got a swim move. He's got a killer spin move. So I didn't get a picture of the spin move on this one. Tried to grab as much as I could, but I wanted to show his relentless motor more than anything. He's a player you should be excited about. You see at the top there, he went in the second round, 54th overall. He actually had an injury at the end of his senior year that took him from a late day one prospect, from a first rounder into the second round, and the Colts were able to pick him up. The Colts love these RAS score guys. I don't know what his exact RAS score was, but he's an athletic freak for sure. 6'6", 286 pounds, and he plays like he's 6'6" and 250 pounds. He just plays lean and athletic. He's fun to watch when you look at the tape on him. One more play from him here. All right, so right off the bat, I sketched him in as our starting defensive end, and I think that's what he will be. And anybody that we draft would be developing. You can move Austin Booker over to the Montez Sweat side. Dayo's going to, be right, or it could be the other way around, and you can have size on different ones. And anyways, so there's many options, but I did pencil him in here. And you can argue about the Grady Jarrett thing. Maybe he's right there with Jervon Dexter side by side. I still think we need to draft a nose tackle. That's not the point of this video. So Dayo Odeyingbo, right off the bat, I sketched him right in there as the starter because there's so much upside with him. He's only 26 years old. Actually, I apologize, 25 years old. But he will turn 26 as this next season starting. But right, like I said, right here in the orange, this is what people are talking about. Well, let's break this down a little bit farther. And I mentioned this on the live feed, and I'm gonna give purpose and reasoning behind it and help understand hopefully a little bit. So here's his pressures per snap. So that's what this PPS is here, okay? So per each year, even though his sacks were way down, his pressures were way up this last year. Well, why does that happen? Why do you get more pressure but less sacks? And that usually only happens when quarterbacks get the ball out quicker. When they get the ball out, and that, maybe that's a one-game sample or a whole season sample. Why would this be happening against the Colts? Well, if you understand the dynamics of the Colts team, and granted, I talked to my best friend a lot about the Colts, their problem this last year was their secondary. They had one of the absolute weakest secondaries in the league between their cornerbacks and their safeties. And there's a reason teams can get the ball out quick. And one of them, that reason right there. If you've got a weak secondary, teams can create separation quickly, and they can be able to get the ball out quicker than normal. And when that happens, even if you're getting some quick pressure, you're still not going to be able to get as many sacks as you normally would. That context is really important in this. In fact, if you look at this from this year, they still got the same amount of pressures this year, and last year they had 51 sacks. This year they had 36 sacks. Well, that checks out right in balance with Dayo Odeyingbo. 12 sacks the year before and 4 sacks this last year. Even though his PPS, his pressure per snap, even that was the best of his entire career. 1 pressure every 10.5 snaps. I call them snacks every once in a while. So 1 pressure every 10.5 sacks or snaps. So even though he was getting more pressure, he was getting less sacks. Well, let's take a look at these quarterbacks. So here's the quarterbacks the opposing quarterbacks against the Colts this last year. And granted, I only gave you one example, but that's the one example that fit for the Colts is when the secondary isn't very good for a team, you can get the ball out quicker. Now, it could be different reasons too. I'm not trying to encompass this in one glorious thing, but if you're playing a lot of, prevent deep, teams can get the ball out quicker too, but that's not the example here. The example is that the Colts really had a bad secondary, so teams could get the ball out quicker. And here's week by week. I did the research this last night, pulled this all together. This is my own research, and here's each team, and it's interesting, these ones at the end, the ones that didn't have a quicker time to throw. So here's the guide. The ones that are white means they did not have a quick. So here's the season time to throw right here, and here's the individual game against the Colts. So these quarterbacks, here's their season time to throw. So C.J. Stroud, 3.01 seconds time to throw on the season, and his game time to throw was 2.91. So that light green color, that's quicker than his average. The more dark color here, like Caleb Williams, that was one of their top 3 to 5 quickest games on the entire season for their time to throw. And the darkest color, like Malik Willis here, that was their absolute quickest time to throw on the entire season. And when you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 quarterbacks that had their quickest time to throw on you in the year, there's a problem with your defense. On top of that, another 1, 2, 3, 4 that had a top 3 to 5, and another 1, 2 that it was just quicker than average. And it's really interesting. Most of these quarterbacks that didn't throw quicker than average, Justin Fields, Tyler Huntley, Mason Rudolph, Drew Lock, Mac Jones, these were all backups that were filling in. And so it's not the normal rhythm and flow for them. But all the other quarterbacks, except Jared Goff, he's the only one who can explain that one, but he had more sacks than normal. So they had a good game against Detroit. But every other one of these, Bo Nix, Drake May, Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen had his quickest game of the year against him. Sam Darnold, same thing. Trevor Lawrence, same thing. Malik Willis. All of these guys had quicker games than normal because the secondary was so weak. So this context is really important when you're talking about Dayo Odeyingbo. You got to understand the situation because his pressure per snap was quicker than any other time in his career. It's not always just about the sacks. 42 pressures and 439 opportunities is actually really good. So is this a value contract? I absolutely think so. I think he's going to fit perfectly with Dennis Allen. He's going to be really good across from Montez Sweat with Gervon Dexter, Grady Jarrett, whoever else we pick up. There's some good options here. And this was a value contract for them. This was not an overpay. You're going to see people talking about this being an overpay. You've got to understand the context of the situation. The Colts secondary was trash last year. The biggest things they've done this offseason, their 2 big free agent signings yesterday were free safety and cornerback. That's what they went after right off the bat because that was their big weaknesses this last year. So it makes sense for them. So this context is important. Even you look at this, they had just as many pressures as this year and the year before, but the sacks were way down because teams were throwing much quicker against them because the secondary was so weak for the Colts. I'm all in on Dayo Odeyingbo. I really am. This is a really good signing. Don't let the Twitter trolls, people tell you the stat, the box stat people. You've got to look at everything. You got to look at the tape. You got to dissect down what's going on. You got to understand the situation for each unique experience. You got to take the stats. I agree with that. I've always been that way on this channel, guys. I am Adam Statson. I like to take the stats, but you've got to dissect them. You've got to make meaning of them, and you've got to see what's going on with them. And you've got to understand, Dennis Allen is one of the more respected defensive ends in the league. He has done some really good things with some really good defensive ends. So if he sees a 25, turning 26-year-old Dayo Odeyingbo, sees his size, sees his freak athleticism, sees his variety of moves from his cross chop to his spin moves to his, his hand usage, he sees all those things and he wants to have every part to do with him and bring him in. I do think he was a priority for the Bears. I think Dennis Allen handpicked him and said, I really want you to go get him. I think that was a priority for them. I think this is a really great pickup for the Bears. In fact, it might be an even more important pickup than other pickups that we've done this offseason. That's saying a lot because we've had some huge ones. So let me know in the comments what you think. If this helped your understanding of Dayo Odeyingbo, if this helps you understand the player a little bit more, if you like some of those highlights, if you like understanding him a little bit more, I appreciate you guys tuning in. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, do it. We've got some great content like this one on this channel. And hit that notification bell so you see the new ones coming out. Do appreciate you guys tuning in. Hit the like button. Until next time, da Bears and bear down.